by Senator Dickett. I would like to say the tragedy in St. School in Buzabuji in Jos Metropolis has become too many. Mr. President, I was in Jos over the weekend, and because of the tragedy, I had the cause to visit the terrible site in Saint School. And the gory picture of the collapsed building and the incessant cries by the families of the bereaved almost brought some of us that were there to tears. Mr. President, you just imagine that you wake up in the morning very happy to send your child to school, and mid-afternoon, they reported that that child is no more. And you probably did not even see him that day. Probably he went to work, and that's the end. And this tragedy happened when the students were writing exams and trying to decipher and trying to get more explanation at that site. We found out, sadly, that there were signals that that building was collapsing. And therefore, in my opinion, the governor was in UK that time, but he had to cancel everything and return shortly after to commensurate with the family. A proper panel has been set up. My prayer, Mr. Senate President, is that this probe panel should not be a typical Nigerian probe panel where probes are made and consequently at the end of the day, nothing actually comes out of the probe. This probe set up by the governor should be thorough and professional, and anybody, no matter how highly placed in that society or community, found to be negligent to the cause of these kids. None of these kids who are told was more than 18, and that is terrible. And therefore, any person found to be negligent in either the building master plan, the owner of the school, I think should not be spared. And I think it is important that all of us as parents, all of us as Nigerian citizens should commiserate with the families of the bereaved and pray that that should never ever happen in this country again. I so second.
Yes. Is it in connection with this debate?